Okay, so I will just skip the introduction and also the warm welcome to both of you. It's our honor to have both of you to be our distinguished speakers today and deliver this valuable, informative presentation. So I would also like to take this opportunity to have a short interview with both of you, maybe just about half an hour for each of you. So as we know that every year there are renewals for the IEC 64 standards, and considering the recent development established for the technology renovation trends, what particular IEC TC 64 standards shall we pay attention to in this year 2017?
So right now, there's really a big issue is for all the standardization. It is the energy efficiency. That is the IEC, which is just new IEC 6364-8-1, deals with energy efficiency. The standard is published and is under revision now. So you see that the energy efficiency is one of the main issues we have all over the world. It is considering for Germany, it's for Europe and also for IEC. So we started the work in IEC, and to that we, as TC64, created a special standard series, which is the series 8. You know that we have -1, -2, -3, and the 8 is rather new. It is not dealing with safety measures, it's dealing with a new area of activities in TC64, which is that, the 8.8-1. The 8-2 will deal with so-called, what we say, prosumer installation. The -2 is giving advice to the people. It will be a standard in future. It gives advice to the users or to the installers how to interconnect several houses, to bring in the houses generators, storage, and allow the consumption of your own produced energy. That is the -2, and it is considering when you deliver energy back from your own generating and when you buy that, and together with the part 2, where we with the part 1, forget part 1, it is a system which allows you to, let's say, buy energy at the price and at the time where you need that for a reasonable price. So that means in high price areas of energy, you are not going to run your washing machine. And to make sure that this system is running, TC23 has formed a special subcommittee dealing with energy efficiency.
So this subcommittee is a newly established
It's new established one is SC23K. And first of all, we are going for a standard which is called load shedding equipment. So that deals with the chapter 2 of 8-2. And we are going for a source selection switch, which ensures that the sources you have in your house are connected correctly. So the connection is that first we do 6364, and in parallel we are doing that product standards. We have the product standard for the TC23, SC23K. And in addition, that is what we did under my chairmanship. We formed a working group which is called HBES. And the HBES group shall ensure that the measures for energy efficiency, so it's the connection and the interconnection with the power supply authorities, gives the result for the consumer that he has the lowest price of his energy. That is 8-1, 8-2, and the referring things. And then it's long time. And then we have also in pipe the 8-3. 8-3 is 6364-8-3, and this deals with the, let's say, installations for growing countries. countries or installations for villages, for people which have no access to electricity right now, which are not served with overhead lines because it's so expensive, they live too far away. And that is a standard giving these people the possibility to get energy from a photovoltaic panel with a battery and maybe some socket outlets and a light, or maybe something for cooling, maybe the freeze or something. But it's just an islanded system which is not connected, and we see a lot of areas in the world where we need that in future. So that gives that people access to the internet, with a smartphone. So you have a computer available. You need not a lot of energy for that. So these are the very important three parts which are really new. In addition, there is some people say that is a bus, but I understand that is a complete new thinking. You know, in the history of the electricity, there were a fight between Westinghouse and Edison concerning AC or DC. And at this time, DC is low use, no applications. But at this time, we have a big chance to save energy, to use DC for many applications where it does really make sense to have DC only. That is started with the data center. So that is considered in all the IEC 63364 standards, and we will continuing making additional needs, additional requirements for the DC, because that, I believe, is really a new chance for everyone. And that is what I showed you yesterday with the photo. Yes. It is that we understand in parallel to an AC network, the installation could also have a DC network in the house, in the building, for just serving you with energy for the LED lights, for the computers, and so on. Maybe in future also for the TVs and so, because the TC10, I have to find out the TC number is TC101, I think, which is for audio video. They are really interested, especially Panasonic and these guys, to have a DC supply for their household, for the TVs and so on.
Okay, so if we have two kinds of system for the household wiring, the DC and the AC, what will be the advantage for the end user consumers? Because that means they need to invest another set for the electrical wires, right? Yeah. People will concern about the cost for doing such kind of things. So what will be the advantage for that if they install both DC and AC system?
Well, we have thought about that, but there is an advantage that you can use your own produced energy, as I said, with the 8-2 standard. You can produce your energy and you can store it in the battery. And the chain is not to use a DC-AC converter again. So the advantage is to use the DC which you have produced yourself in your own appliances first, without Verluste, without these changing of energy between AC and DC converters. And that is the cost benefit for everyone. So I say in DC, and that's also for data center true, and you from Copper Alliance may understand that, you can have a higher current in a DC wire that gives you more bits per ampere.
Mm-hmm. Yes, correct.
So that is the advantage. Of course, you have to say you need to install that, but for all of us, in future you can get rid of the transformers in the all that. Mm. You just plug in the USB as you do for the smartphones, and that is a calculation which you need to consider. And if you want to have in your own generator like PV or a generating set with a motor, whatever, you can first go with your own energy. And I believe we have a calculation. If everyone in the world just takes this ground supply, ground power, what he needs for everyday amount of the everyday is about 0.5 or 1 amp per day.
Yes.
If he has that produced himself, we can go down with the generating power all over the countries. And that may be an advantage. Of course, it's an advantage also for the manufacturers, because we can invent new devices, we can talk with the customers. That is from the former time, this is also the business when I talk for Siemens. It is that any new approach, we think on new products.
Okay, right. So I think those three standards relating for energy efficiency, the PV, power generation, individual system, which can get more supply for those violate developing countries, I think the citizens can benefit a lot.
Yeah.
As well as the last one you mentioned is the AC/DC system power supply, which I believe will be a new trend.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and there's one other standard which we are just doing, which is important. It's a new approach. It's concerning IEC 63364-5-57. 57 deals with the application and the installation of generators in parallel to the network system. That is also a brick which we need for that new approach, which is a system.
Okay, so this one, the content is still under developing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thanks for that. So I think the second question is for you, Mr. Zippel. I read from your CV, you have been involved in one of the IEC 61540, the edition content development. So are there any particular technical points that the China's electrical engineers shall learn from it?
Yeah, that was a project which is, you see that the standard is from 1999.
Okay, so I think just now the 3 or 4 standards you mentioned just now will be more relevant for recent developments, right?
In the recent developments in 23E, and that is what we talked about for the first question, we are going for standards for DC circuit breakers, DC RCDs, and that is also in 121A, which is another committee which I am involved. We are doing this DC also for circuit breakers for DC, for higher currents. So, yeah, the 61540 is a standard, but it is just for, let's say, for site service. It's where people do not have an RCD in the installation, and that is going down. And with the new approach in chapter 41, he doesn't like that. We are going for RCDs for socket outlets. Right now we go for 20 amps. And we are on the way. The world has already accepted that for 32 amp circuits. So we place the RCD in the installation, not on the flexible wire. Maybe it does make sense if you have that. If in areas where you don't have an RCD in front, that is more or less also what we do with the 62752, which is the ICCPD standard for the electric vehicles, for areas where you are cannot be sure where you have if you have an RCD in front. That's the case in what we say grandmother charging. Yeah, you come to your grandmother and it's an old house and you may not have an RCD in that house, so therefore you need that ICCPD standard. But this is more or less similar to that. So, but as long as you have a charging box, also you don't need these ICCPD anymore. I don't know how the process is with electric vehicles. No. This is just questions to 23.
Yes.
So, and 23 is doing that, especially on that areas. And yeah, what is new there? I would follow that standards, the 6898-3, and the number of the DC standard is the DT. T as a technical specification for the time being. It is a start for DC RCDs because we do not have any products right now, but the products will follow that guidance. The thing is that we need special adjustment of the tripping times for these devices, and that we need to study a little bit deeper.
Okay. So in addition to the development for those ongoing new standards you mentioned in the first question about a new AC and DC system. So if the China's electrical engineers, they want to know more about how the AC and the DC systems can work in parallel, what are the standards they should study on that?
In that we will go for 8-2.
8-2.
Yeah, that so you can either run the DC's environment independently from the AC, but usually you have the same precautions. And what we today described, the chapter 41, for example, protection against electric shock, right now considers DC also. So we have all that considered in that standard. So DC is the 6364 is almost ready DC. Everything is done.
Okay, that's great. So we look forward for the completion for that new standards. Yeah. Okay, then the third question is that yes, actually you will fly to Beijing after your trip to Shanghai and meet with the TC205, which are the representative for transferring IEC standards into China. Regarding the adoption for IEC standards in China, what would you recommend to us? Say, for example, can you give us 3 suggestions when Chinese electrical engineers, our standards formulation bodies, when they do the adoption or the transferring the IEC standards into the China markets?
Yeah, first of all, I think the timing is necessary to adjust. As we understand, the IEC installation rules, the 6364, are closely linked also to the the developments in the product standards. And now we see that the 64 is increased, and the standards for the products in China are not in time with that. They do not match, right. And that is one of the first things. Do the timing together with IEC. So that means you run just 1 or 2 editions below the existing. That is what they do.
So which means whenever we notice there is a revision or a new development for the IEC system in regarding the timing, so we need to catch up in line with the revision with IEC, right?
I give you an example. There's a development of the so-called AFDD, arc fault detection device.
Okay.
And we do the investigation and the design of this device in the broad product standard, and in parallel to that, we amended the IEC 6364-4-42. If these both parts do not fit, you run out of acceptance. That's one thing. Okay. So another point is the structure.
Structure, the TOC, right? The table of content.
Yeah, the structure of 6364 is really important to take that on board. We also discussed this morning, how is that possible? And a combined document was on the pipe, was under development, but finally not accepted. So, but the structure is really important. Okay. And to adapt that, that is what my colleague here in the morning also described, that we have in Germany several additional rules and regulations and also, how can I call that, guiding documents. And that is hard work, but the guiding documents are really important for that. So that is, for my understanding, the three. Maybe I have some more. This is the education of the installers, which is the inspection, yeah. And so we have these documents from our insurance companies, which are in addition provide information for the installers. So and that is the complete figure in Germany. And later on we started with some discussions with Guy Darling, you may know him from Siemens, and he says, we don't have that. Can you provide us with this document? So it's not a problem to have that. As you do the translation, is not a problem. But this is more or less 3 points you ask for.
Okay, thank you for your suggestions. So I think that's I should go for the 5th question first, because I noticed that you have been involved in standard development or revision in your career, especially for the IEC standards. So what do you see the value for doing such job, and what elements drive you to keep on doing this?
That's let's say it's a longer story. As I explained this morning, we had a special education system for skilled workers, and that is I run through. Then I take my higher professional. I was an engineer, and I was hired by ABB for the development of RCDs. And I did this job for 10 years, leading that group for the design and for the manufacturing of these devices. And then there came another chance on giving additional application guiding for our customers. That is what I did. And with that, the first questions came, can you go for standardization work for the beginning for products? So I come from the design to the standardization of products, so it's circuit breakers, RCDs, selective main circuit breakers. That was done in our company, and we brought the standardization together with that and aligned that. So we had the one of the first project was the universal RCD MCB. That is the 6898-2, which also deals with DC. Now we go a step further with the part 3, only DC. And during that work, I recognized that it is really essential to know the application and to know the installation rules for these devices, because we have a good chance to bring our knowledge of the products into the installation rules. And that is the start of the beginning. I was thinking, I should be involved in 0, 100. Yeah, and that, so I can do that. Let's say I have the knowledge of the product itself. Maybe that are not so many people in the community having done their laboratory work with making short circuits themselves. Big bang. And that's my force. And then, with that, together with 64, it is for me a picture that I need for the devices and for the installation. But at the end, my money, I got my money from Siemens, so it's for the products.
Okay.
And with that,
that's pretty much answer our questions. So last 2 questions actually is more about your own impression to China. We know that you have been traveling a lot all over the world, as you mentioned, at least 1 or 2 times to Asian countries. So what's your impression for our city, Shanghai and China? Are there any difference? Are there any difference every time you come when you communicate with the local electrical engineers? How do you see the difference?
Yeah. That's really easy to explain. At the beginning, we saw, what's going on in China? It's really hard to give them education. And now, when we talk at home about China, I say, no, it has completely changed. And that's really my opinion, that by the last 10 years, you increase your knowledge a lot. And so now you have, let's say, you talk with your colleagues as in Siemens, all that, you are on the same level. That's no difference. Maybe that there are some lacks, of course, or because of some other things, but if you see, it's going up. At the beginning, we also see that this China is not taking over the chairmanships of technical committees and so on, but it's now changing.
Okay.
That's honestly speaking the truth.
So there will be more chances for the China's electrical engineers to get involved in the real content development and also the discussion, etc., right, for the TC64 standards.
That is exactly what we need. We need conversation, and we need proposals from China in order to adjust our standardization work. And it's right the time. This is what we discussed this lunch, that we need proposals how to amend for better understanding that standard. The thing is, if we don't have that, we work for our own. So I believe it's better to have ideas and new proposals from all over the world. So, but of course, that needs a little bit of you need to be a little brave on that, because not every proposal is loved and accepted. Yes. But of course, with that you need, no, we want. And then at the end, you will of course have success. So that is what we say. We have the IEC plenary, the TC64 plenary in Helsinki, beginning of May. And if you send a letter to the secretary, we would like to have more detailed guiding documents. It will of course be considered, but it is not done in 1 year. That's for sure, because we need to install a new maintenance team, a working group, and all that. So, and we have already a lot of projects.
Okay, that's good. So, how many cities you have been to China?
How many? You have visited?
Yes.
Yeah, I know, but I cannot remember.
So must be quite a lot, right?
It's a lot. Okay. We have to check our passport.
Is there any city impressed you most during your stay in China?
Oh, that's a problem. We almost work, and
okay.
That is just because we come to China, we work, and we have to go. There was one at the past when we had some contacts with the manufacturers, that at this time it was ABB. And these guys brought us to the Great Wall. It was really nice. The only thing, it was in winter time. It's so cold there.
Oh yes, it's quite cold and windy.
Yeah. So, and we did... And that is what we do. So we all over the world just jump in and jump out.
Yeah, it's pity that this time you cannot spend more time doing the sightseeing in Shanghai. So hopefully you will also have a good stay in Beijing next week.
Of course.
Yeah. So actually today's event, EEO, the Electrical Engineer Organization, is one of the co-organizers. This is a program initiated by International Copper Association China. We hope to establish a platform for the local engineers where they can share information, exchange the best practice, experience, etc. So can you say something to our members?
Yeah, I thought that it's really necessary to have an exchange of knowledge, and so for this, I understand this is an additional point for education of these people all over the world, all over your country. So it is really important to have this knowledge, and someone combine that knowledge and bring that to the customers. And that is what I understand from your approach.
Yes. So currently we established this platform and we have our official website where we will upload the first-hand information, standards, etc. for them to refer to. And also occasionally from time to time we will organize this kind of regular events to do the offline seminars and invite speakers from China. And it's our honor today to have both of you who can deliver the presentation to us.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, and we love to do that. It's really a good chance also to learn, because we learn also from here what is necessary to do. So it's a advantage for both sides, I believe, and that is something similar what we have. As I said several times, we have also internet platforms where you can download that. And maybe that's a proposal for you. If you do that, what is really successful in Germany is the webinar.
Oh, the webinar.
You know that?
Yes.
That is so successful. We couldn't understand that this is taken.
We plan to start doing the webinar as well from this year on.
Oh, well, you see, you are not far away. We
Yes.
did to start that last year, so it's not not a big difference between two countries.
I think so.
Yeah, so
Even we can just hold some webinars and invite the foreign speakers from. You don't have to undergo the long journey with it. You can just do the speech through the web.
yeah, that could be a reasonable system also to do that, because we have that already, and if you install that, it's quite easy to do that, because that's only the time difference.
Yes. So hopefully in the future we will have you to do the presentation again for our EEO members from the webinar platform as well. Yeah.
We are prepared for that. I like to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's all of the questions for Mr. Zippel. Do you have anything to supplement, Gabriel?
No, so far.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.